Chantal, and of course following the heartbreaking flooding in Texas. I'm meteorologist Jane Menard. Let's get to it. We have Tropical Storm Chantal checked off the list this morning, inching toward the Carolina coast. It's the first Atlantic storm of the season that will have a direct U.S. impact. Landfall, it's expected within about the next several hours. We're eyeing the overnight timeline. Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel is live in North Myrtle Beach, where conditions are starting to take a turn. Mike.
Good afternoon, Jane. We have made our way up the South Carolina coast, starting this morning at Folly Beach. We had some pretty gusty winds, some blowing sand, and we had a little bit of rain. One little squall came through. We just had a pretty hefty squall here in the past half an hour. I'd say the winds gusted to about 30 miles an hour, but these things come in fast and they're gone. As you can see on the radar, let's go to that first. And you'll notice there's nothing now upwind. Remember, everything rotates around low pressure in the northern hemisphere counterclockwise, and you can see the center, the blob of rain, even lightning bolts out over the Gulf Stream and about 100 miles off to the southeast of Charleston, South Carolina. The storm is not moving very fast. With the 2 o'clock update north at 3 miles an hour, we expect it to start moving a little bit faster overnight. And all of the global models, the hurricane models, the HWRF, they're all bringing the center on shore tomorrow morning, some before sunrise, sun right at sunrise, somewhere on the South Carolina coast. So that means the worst of it is going to be along and to the right, which means part of the South Carolina coast, part of the North Carolina coast. And that's why we have that tropical storm warning up from the South Santee River up to Surf City,
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Ziska in the Fox 26 studios. Breaking news now as we follow the deadly and devastating flooding in Kerrville and the surrounding area, where at least 27 people are known dead. More than 24 are still missing. Governor Abbott and Kerr County authorities, along with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, are providing an update. We'll listen in now.
As well as some things to share. First, what I have observed in this community over the past 24 hours is what I call quintessential Texas. When Texans face a challenge, we come together, we unite. And that's exactly what's happened over the past 24 to 48 hours in this community. Nothing more than extraordinary devastation. And the worst thing that could have happened in this community fell upon it. They could have fallen apart. They could have fought against each other. But instead, they understand the importance of unity. And it's what Texans do. It's what we will continue to do. Along those lines, something else to double down on what I said last night. We will be relentless in going after and ensuring that we locate every single person who's been a victim of this flooding event. We're not going to stop today or tomorrow. We will stop when the job is completed. Between now and whenever that day arrives when the job is completed, this is a 24/7 operation, day and night, because we know that we are looking for Texans and Americans, and we put them as our top priority, and we will find every one of them. Additionally, I want to let you know that overnight, there was an increase in storm damage and rainfall and flooding in other regions of the state of Texas that were in addition to the ones that were in the disaster declaration that I made yesterday. What I'm going to sign today is an expanded disaster declaration that adds the following counties to what I signed yesterday. This disaster declaration includes Bexar County, Burnett, Caldwell, Guadalupe, Travis, and Williamson counties. We will continue to add counties as needed, as conditions either worsen or improve in counties across the state of Texas. We will ensure that every asset and resource the state has is going to be made available to every county that's the subject of this disaster declaration. Also, I've had the opportunity to visit not just with Secretary Noem, but other officials in the Trump administration. We know that President Trump, he loves Texas for one. He's deeply concerned about all the families who've been affected, but also knows about the magnitude of the devastation that we're suffering. And so what I'm about to sign now is going to be the first step in a process. This document is a request for a federal disaster declaration coming from the governor to seek the immediate and ongoing help of the federal government. I want to express my gratitude in advance to President Trump for his entire administration for their devotion to the state of Texas. He always tells me about his love for the people of the state of Texas, his deep concern for them, and I know that he's feeling that now as much as he ever has. And there's no better way to show that than the fact that he wanted to ensure that he and his entire administration was represented here today by Secretary Kristi Noem, to whom I would like to turn things over at this time.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And I want to thank Governor Abbott for his leadership, and know that President Trump is absolutely heartbroken by what has happened here in Texas, and the loss of life is absolutely devastating to him and Melania. This morning I talked with him several times, and he wanted to make sure that all of you know how much he loves Texas, how much he's grieving for your families that have lost someone and the beautiful children that we're still looking for and hoping to return to their families, and that he is absolutely committed to using all the resources of the federal government to help unify families, rescue all those that were still missing, and return those who maybe we will recover back to their families as soon as possible, and that we will be here walking alongside each other and helping throughout this entire crisis. And know that I'm extremely grateful as well for the leadership of Nim Kidd, who's a fantastic emergency operations manager and has been well known throughout this country for leading through such a time as this. And this tragic situation is something that is unprecedented. We recognize that at the federal level. We also recognize that when something like this happens to a community, happens to a state, that the best responders are those locally, because it's your family members, it's your community members that are being impacted, and you can respond quickly. And the role of the state is to run and manage that emergency, but the federal government needs to be here for the support and extra resources on the ground as well. And that is what we are doing and what President Trump has dedicated to continue to do. I've visited with the president already about this federal disaster declaration that the governor was going to sign here this morning, and he has indicated that he will honor that and that he will accept that. So that response and that relief will be coming. And we also have had assets here on the ground since the beginning of this crisis started, since this weather event did start, and even before it came, we were alerted. We did have Coast Guard assets here that were helping to rescue people. We're thankful for the airframe that showed up and those coasties that were here walking alongside our DPS, and the emergency responders that were here, the Texas assets that were deployed already, and that coordination was seamless, and I appreciate them for putting that request in right away. We also had our BORTAC team from Customs and Border Protection out here helping with rescues. They are a specialized, trained force to come in these types of situations and bring their skill set to bear. That is a resource that's incredibly important to the Department of Homeland Security, but also in these types of situations when we need emergency management response. We also did have a CBP advisory interdiction specialist here that was helping with some coordination of air assets that has been present. And then we are looking at the other entities that are under the department, what can be utilized. And of course, FEMA is standing at an enhanced level right now, which means that they are plugged in to the State Operations Center. We are engaged, and then as this response goes forward, that their role will continue to be filled as it always is in these situations, and will be timely and responsive as to what the governor requests and what is needed here on the ground. I do know that the state of Texas is amazing in how it responds to disasters. Not every state is like that. Many states do not do what the people of Texas do. And you are an example to the nation of getting through these difficult times, but also know that you're not alone, that you have the entire country's hearts and are with you and are walking alongside you. And at the department, we will continue to bring more resources. We just, at the request of a previous conversation less than an hour ago, in visiting with him and with the governor, requested more fixed-wing aircraft from Coast Guard to come and help us, making sure that we're going out and locating individuals as fast as possible that we know are still missing, and that we also will send more airframe as far as helicopters that have the ability to come in, and some will be equipped, and the fixed wings with thermals so they can continue to work all night long. Some of the assets that other agencies may offer don't have that kind of equipment, but the Coast Guard does have it, and so that will be deployed so that the search and rescue efforts don't stop even when it does get dark at night. We'll continue to stay engaged, and I'll be here. I'm going to go up to the camp, Mystic, and I'm going to go around town and spend some time here today, and make sure that when I am calling and talking to the president throughout the day, that he has timely information and that the requests that are coming here from the leadership on the ground are met immediately, and that we can take care of these families and take care of these folks right away. We do know the #1 priority now is people, is making sure we're finding people as fast as possible, and we're returning them to their families. And then also, throughout the process, we'll get into what damage was done to public infrastructure, what may have been done to, I know we have 1,800 people that are still without power. what I understand is people still have water, but we do have damage to bridges and to roads. Thankfully, dams held. But all of that is an assessment that we'll continue to work with you on to make sure that you recover as quickly as possible. So, again, thank you all for being strong and being an example for people. Someone told me a long time ago, over 30 years ago, that to never get angry on behalf of yourself, get angry on behalf of the other people. To always go out and get up every day and go work for other people and help them. And so I know many of you that are out there responding and helping your neighbors had losses too. You're hurting because you're grieving somebody that may have been lost. We were created to serve people. God created us to serve each other. And now is a wonderful time to go find somebody you can help, somebody that you can take care of and get them through this process. And that will make us stronger and better into the future. So our prayers are with you. President Trump wants you to know that he and Melania are praying for you and love you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the governor.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the assets and resources you and the Trump administration are providing. One thing that Secretary Noem mentioned was the fact that recoveries and rescues are being made. And what has happened over the past 36 hours is really amazing. When you look at what the local officials have done, working in collaboration with multiple state agencies as well as our federal partners, in 36 hours, they have rescued or recovered more than 850 people, some clinging to trees to save their lives, others in other precarious situations. It's just sheer heroism, the way that we've seen our first responders rescue so many people. And now I would like to turn things over to Senator John Cornyn.
My thanks to President Trump and Secretary Noem for responding so quickly to Governor Abbott's request for a federal disaster declaration. And particularly, Madam Secretary, thank you for being here in person. It's really important and I think sends a very important message. Unfortunately, I've been to a number of disasters over the years across the state of Texas, as has the governor, and none of these get any easier. But I have to tell you, I remain incredibly impressed with Governor Abbott's leadership and the incredible work that the Texas Department of Emergency Management under the leadership of Nim Kidd do. They are literally the best in the nation. And what Secretary Noem said about other states not responding as well is true. It's something we should be very proud of and grateful for, particularly at a time like this. And then there are the men and women who are standing behind us here, who have been doing the work on the ground, not waiting for the federal government to show up. They've been getting the work done, as the governor pointed out. And we are all together, we are praying for those who have lost loved ones and are grieving. We are celebrating with those who have been reacquainted with and rejoined with their family members. And, you know, a few years ago, the governor will remember this, up in West Texas after a terrible disaster, a county commissioner there said something to me that I think is appropriate at a time like this. He said, being from Texas is not just about where you're from, it's who your family is. And so when things like this happen, we come together as a family, as Texans, in a way that I'm very proud of. But it's very important because this is who our family is, and we owe it to them. And I take the governor at his word that he and his team will be relentless in supporting all of the efforts at the local and the federal level until every last person is accounted for and those families are reunited with their loved ones. But Governor, thank you again for your leadership. Secretary Noem, it means a lot to us for you to be here. And we appreciate Governor Abbott and Chief Kidd, but we appreciate President Trump and you responding so quickly to the governor's request for disaster declaration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now Congressman Chip Roy.
Thank you, Governor. Thanks all of you for being here. Before I was crazy enough to run for Congress, my family and I started a tradition of coming down to Kerrville for 4th of July. And we've been coming here every summer since my kids were little. They're now 14 and 15 to see Robert Earl and whoever else was playing. And pictures have been popping up my phone, the ones that, kick on the anniversary of different shows, like a bunch of different shows over the last decade. It hits home. It really does. It hits personally for those of us for whom this is our community, our home. My family lives in Hays County, but we spend a lot of time in Kerr. And I can't say enough about the local leadership and what they've been doing in the face of this disaster. Your city manager has done an extraordinary job. Your sheriff has done an extraordinary job. I could go down the list of everybody, and I'll leave somebody out. But I can't say enough about what they've done, and then I can't say enough about the governor and about NIM and about the leadership that has come from the state and from DPS and from TDEM to get this done and to do what we're in the process of still doing to react to this unfortunate circumstance. It's been professional and it's been extremely well done. And I have to say, the secretary yesterday, I reached out to her office. I think it might be 15 minutes later that I got a call from the secretary, immediately responding to requests. I talked to NIM about the need for Army Corps support and some other stuff, immediately talked to the secretary about it. The collaboration, the teamwork, local, state, and federal, I cannot overstate the extent to which everybody set aside turfs or any of those kinds of things to deliver for the people of Texas. Now, we're far from having finished the job. We're all here knowing that we still have work to do. We're still prayerful. We're still hopeful. Obviously, there's a lot here that we're dealing with, but I'm deeply appreciative for that coordination. And last point that I'll just make is, and I've said this a little bit earlier this morning, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing and a lot of second guessing and Monday morning quarterbacking. And I just wanted to pick up on what I think the governor said about 850 something individuals that were moved quickly in this circumstance and in a once in a century flood where you get 12, 14 inches, where you get a 26 to 30 foot increase in water in the course of an hour and a half at 4 to 6 o'clock in the morning on a holiday. And that's what we're dealing with in these circumstances and where those camps are. There's a lot of people saying why and how, and I understand that. And I understand why parents would be asking those questions and all of the media. But where we are right now in terms of what we've done to be able to protect people, move them, get them out of the camps, and the heroic efforts of people that worked in those camps, directors of the camps, people who own the camps, who not just risked their lives, gave their lives to try to go save the lives of those kids. That's who they are as Texans. And I'm so proud of that. And I'm so proud of the work that everyone's done to do that. And now we just got to finish the job and be with the people. And importantly, pray for the families who have lost their loved ones.
Thank you. Now, Kerr County Judge Kelly.
Yes, I think I'm the only one at this table that lives on the Guadalupe River. And our properties were devastated, and I barely got home yesterday. I started my morning ushering in a crew with a skid steer and 2 dump trailers, 3 trucks, 9 men to start trying to rebuild what went down the river. I then had the opportunity to come here where I was asked to go over to the funeral home. I had issues over there. I am a 50-year lawyer and a mediator and arbitrator, and we had some issues that needed attention. And I got to see firsthand many of the body bags, and it breaks my heart. And coming back from that, we had an opportunity to go on a helicopter ride with the senator and the mayor and inspect the devastation. We flew all the way up the South Fork, all the way to Criders. And you can see what's happened, and it's going to be a long time before we're ever going to be able to clean it up, much less rebuild it. But there's nothing on the other side of Criders. It's just hill country. And we didn't know. We know we get rains. We know the river rises. But nobody saw this coming. And what I really have to report to you is it was a godsend to be able to get out of the helicopter, walk back into this building, and sit down with these people and cooperate, arm in arm, hand in hand, to do the best we can to work the process. The rescue has gone as well as can be expected. It's getting time now for the recovery, and that's going to be a long, toilsome task for us. And what I would reiterate that I've heard others say is as long as we stay together, we'll get this done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Mayor Herring.
I want to start off by saying thank you on behalf of the city of Kerrville and our 25,000 citizens. I want to say thank you to the federal government, the state government, county government. You know, as I look around the room in the Emergency Operations Center, I don't see different agencies from the state, the federal, the county. I see one team working together. It's important for our community to know it's one team. We will rescue those in peril, and we will find those who are lost. I continue to ask everyone who sees this today to pray for Kerrville and Kerr County. We need your prayers. And thank God we have the help of the federal government and the state government in this horrible, horrible crisis. Thank God for our country, and thank God for all the help we are receiving today. Thank you.
Now, TDM Chief Nimkid.
Thank you, Governor. My heart breaks. It's broken for those families that have lost their loved ones, and that fuels our drive to continue to search for them, and we will not stop until we find every one of them. I have to start by thanking our local first responders. Those men and women on the streets live here, they work here, their families are here, yet they got on the truck and they got in the car and they got in the ambulance and they went out and they did everything they could to save their neighbors. You also have volunteers all over this county that do the job for free, that were out there working to save lives, many times putting their own lives and their property at risk. Our state partners have been phenomenal, nothing short. Madam Secretary, your federal team has been nothing short of remarkable and impressive. I'm grateful for that. Every time I've reached out to you or your staff or Acting Administrator Richardson or the Acting Regional Administrator, I don't think the phone has rang twice before you've answered. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being here with us. Life safety continues to be our #1 priority. We will continue the search until all those that are missing are found. We will start cleanup and property damage assessments as soon as possible. Our teams from FEMA have been in the State Emergency Operations Center since before we started operating on this event. They are exactly where we need them to be, doing exactly what we need them to be doing. Our Border Patrol partners have been here, and I'm so grateful for the U.S. Coast Guard. Acting Administrator Richardson and Regional Administrator Stoller have been great partners to us. We continue to work forward. And if I may, I'd just like to run across a few more of the numbers. 1,331 state additional personnel that have been added to this response on top of all your local responders. Over 906 state assets here. That's 125 from our agency, 172 from the Urban Search and Rescue Team at Texas Task Force 1, over 160 from the Department of Public Safety, over 250 from the Texas Department of Transportation, 170 from the Texas Wildlife Department, Military Department 136, and the A&M Forest Service here with 115, and almost 190 people on the health and medical side. Governor, our team stands ready to assist this community.
Thank you very much. One last thing, and that is, there is a word that's been the most common word that's been spoken over the past 36 hours, and that is the word prayer. It's been repeated by the people who are watching this as we speak right now. It's repeated often on social media, through phone calls, through texts. And those prayers are answered in so many ways. Answered by that child who was being swept down the river and happened to find a tree to cling on and was able to continue with uncommon strength to be able to remain clinging to that tree until a helicopter was able to descend upon her and lift her out of that harrowing situation. It could have been the reason why water stopped rising into a home or a cabin or something that would have caused an entire building to float away. It could be the reason why there have been so many people who have been located wherever they were down the river basin. It could be something that prevented somebody from getting into the water to begin with. All we know is that prayer does work. Your prayers have made a difference. We ask for continued prayers as we continue our efforts to locate everybody who's been affected by this, and pray so much for the families who have lost a loved one, who are going through challenging times that they never imagined on the 3rd of July that something like this would happen. Prayer matters, and we thank God Almighty. God has blessed Texas and will continue to bless our great state. We'll take a few questions.
Have the numbers changed? 27 dead and 27 missing from Camp Mystic.
Sure.
What I can tell you is there's still 27 missing. We have recovered some additional bodies at this time. We're trying to identify at this time. What I can tell you, an update, there's 32 deceased. 18 of those are adults and 14 are children. 5 of the adults remain unidentified and 3 children remain unidentified. We are still working on that this time. As I said earlier this morning, the numbers are going to continue to change. They're going to continue to change till we're done. It's been a very good day as far as being out there and being able to do some things, and we've got a lot done.
Chief, early on there was a lot of conflicting information about the search, about the number of fatalities, the missing, even a lot of families and parents were rightfully concerned and more importantly confused about all this information. We just heard the judge refer to this as a shift from rescue to recovery. Can you clarify what that means? Are we talking about these missing people no longer believed to be alive?
You'll need the judge to answer that piece. Our state assets and local partners are continuing to search for live victims.
Is there any indication that there are still people out there alive? Any evidence?
History would tell us that after a certain time period, those chances diminish, and we can talk about all of the numbers and the metrics on that. Our hope and prayer is that there are still people alive that are out there, and we are still actively searching for them, and we will continue. And listen, that will turn into recovery at some point, and none of us want to put a time period on that right now. But when you talk to the men and women that are up there in those helicopters and out in those boats and walking the ground, they're looking for live people right now and doing everything they can to continue this search as fast as possible.
And Judge, just a moment to clarify, because we want to be very clear with especially families and parents that are watching this. What makes you feel like this has gone from rescue to potential recovery? Because there is a difference.
We will eventually get to the recovery.
2 more questions.
Well, we're going to do more than 2 more questions. I want to say this. My instruction to every state agency involved in this is to assume everybody who is missing is alive, and there's a need for speed. Not just every hour, every minute counts, which is why there's people in the air, people in the water, people on the ground right now, because they're looking to save every last life, and we will not give up that effort.
2 more questions.
I live in Kerrville. Why was the National Weather Service not pinging our phones before 7 o'clock this day of 4th of July? We need federal people to answer that maybe for us. I got updates at 7 o'clock. First one I heard, and I've heard updates throughout the week, but not before 7 o'clock in the morning. Wasn't that a fundamental failure of the federal government's responsibility to keep us safe?
Well, you know, my background is, before I was in the secretary position here under the Trump administration, I was governor of South Dakota and served in Congress for 8 years before I was governor. And so I will tell you that for decades, for years, everybody knows that the weather is extremely difficult to predict, but also that the National Weather Service over the years at times has done well, and at times we have all wanted more time and more warning and more alerts and more notification. That is something, and one of the reasons that when President Trump took office, that he said he wanted to fix, and is currently upgrading the technology. And the National Weather Service has indicated that with that and NOAA that we needed to renew this ancient system that has been left in place with the federal government for many, many years, and that is the reforms that are ongoing there. The timeline that I have, I don't oversee the National Weather Service, that's not under my department, but the timeline that I did receive from them was that the notifications started to look at its expansion for its limited flood impacts area that started on July 3rd at 1:18 p.m. The flood watch was issued. Although it was moderate, it wasn't to the extremes that it was, that when the system came over the area that it stalled, it was much more water, much like I think we experienced during Harvey, the same type of system that was unpredictable in the way that it reacted and the way that it stopped right here and dumped unprecedented amounts of rain that caused a flooding event like this. They continue to elevate and up their notifications. You know, when your notification hit your phone, sir, I'm sorry, I can't speak to when that is, but I do carry your concerns back to the federal government and to President Trump, and we will do all we can to fix those kinds of things that may have felt like a failure to you and to your community members. But we know that everybody wants more warning time, and that's why we're working to upgrade the technologies that have been neglected by far too long to make sure that families have as much advanced notice as possible. But
one more question, folks.
Can you please get into the search efforts of where that's happening and what the challenges are?
Question was search efforts.
Where it's happening, challenges, what it's looking
Yeah, the entire river is being searched from the northernmost impact all the way as we run down. You have assets in the air that are still doing searches, you have boats that are in the water doing searches, and you have ground crews doing searches. As the water recedes, new areas being uncovered and searched, and you have human and canine that are working those banks and will continue. It's a grid situation where we've got maps in there in the EOC where you can see what group is assigned to what area and reporting back to command if they find or if they continue to clear. And that process is going to keep going. We are not stopping until we find everyone that's missing.
Great, thank you, everyone. That's all we got time for.
Go ahead.
As far as the resources people who are trying to recover, we have FEMA, we have the state. What can people depend on from the federal government and the state government in this time of need? There's a lot of that.
well, as in every emergency situation, the local emergency responders put together what the request is through the state, and the state coordinates all of the response and what assets may be necessary and makes a request to us. So now that the governor has already requested this federal disaster declaration, he will start to tell us what the needs are, and the federal government will do all that we can to support.
Ma'am, will there be direct assistance?
Well, there already has been direct assistance. I mean, when you look at having Coast Guard assets here on the ground, we just requested more assets to be here, Border Patrol here. If there's more individuals and federal law enforcement officers, if we need any assets that I may have under my purview, I've made available to NIM, and so he knows that if he needs something, it'll be here.
Great,
thank you.
Everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, folks.
We've been listening to a press briefing in Kerr County, Kerrville, after yesterday's deadly, devastating flash floods. At last check, leaving 32 people dead and still 27 people, a number of them children, missing. Governor Abbott, joined by Texas Senator John Cornyn and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and local authorities as well. A number of things coming from this, from Governor Abbott, noting that the state will be relentless in finding those affected, and it is a 24/7 operation, nonstop until everyone is found. And the governor says that they will assume that every missing person is alive until they learn otherwise. We have also noted that 15 Texas counties have been listed by a disaster declaration by the governor, and he has indicated that he will also request a federal disaster declaration from President Trump. Hence Secretary Noem's presence there, who says that a number of resources remain on the ready if and when the governor gets to that point of asking for that federal assistance. Meantime, this is an ongoing operation, continuing to look for those who are missing in Kerrville. The Kerr County judge County judge says nobody saw this coming, as he noted earlier in the day that this is on the Guadalupe River, and we'll note that some people say the Guadalupe River, but either way, noted as the most dangerous river valley in the United States, as this confluence of weather patterns just dumped inches and inches of rain onto the area and created the flash flooding that prompted all of this damage, all of this death, all of this devastation that is ongoing now. That search for the missing people continues at this hour. And again, as Governor Abbott noted, it will continue until everyone who is missing is accounted for. I want to ask now if we can go to Kerrville. Yes? Excellent. First, I want to go to our reporter, Fox 26's Jonathan Mejia. He has been on the ground since last night, and Anthony Antoine has just arrived as well. Anthony's there. Gentlemen, Jonathan, let me start with you first. You've been there and you've gotten kind of some sense of what's going on. What have you learned? What have you seen?
That's right, Tom. I've been here since last night, and this has been ongoing search for 36 hours, and it just continues. Every single update we receive, Anthony, unfortunately, the death toll continues to rise, and we're just learning more of how the state, local, and federal are all working together to continue to search for the missing people.
And you know, Tom, what I thought was really interesting, too, is in that press conference, you heard a reporter ask a question looking for specifics, the difference between rescue and recovery, right? Because that essentially is what this boils down to, because every update we get, we first started with 13 deaths, and it went to 24. Here we are now at 27, now 32. So like that is the emphasis here, because so many families are clinging to that hope that their little girl or that son, their daughter, their grandparents are still alive. And if it's a rescue effort, you hold on to that. But if there's discussion about recovery, now we're in a different space where folks are no longer potentially holding on to that hope, because right now it's recovering bodies. So that's why it was so important to try to get that understanding there. And I think the governor summed it up the best way possible, right? He says we're going to assume everyone missing is alive, and that's pretty much where things stand right now.
And that's the hope that they're hanging on to. You know, I've attended to 2 presses already, and there's not losing hope. Even the mayor of the city of Kerrville says, listen, it's going to be a tough day for the city, but we're going to find everyone. Now, the difficulty is that they can only account for the campers, because they know that how many have registered to those camps. Right. But what they're dealing with now is that they don't know how many people were here visiting the weekend. They don't know if people were visiting their family members. So they're not sure of how many people are unaccounted for. But again, they're not losing hope, and that's what we're hearing here.
And, you know, even Chip Roy, the representative who was here at the podium, he talked about this being a spot where he and his family come to all the time. It's a very popular place for folks to visit, especially on July 4th. And to Jonathan's point, that's why it's difficult to figure out that accounted for number, because even in those first press conferences, everyone in the media was trying to get an understanding. Okay, we're hearing unaccounted for, but give me a rough idea here. Are we looking at 100 people, 200-300 people? So it's really tough, right, to figure out, especially on July 4th weekend. A lot of folks were out there in their campers, you know, driving their RVs, going to the RV park that's in this community. Then even in that RV park, was it just a couple, or was it a couple and their 3 kids?
And you mentioned the RV park. That's one of the first locations we went to yesterday, and we arrived there and we did not know that was an RV park until we saw on social media what it was before. Completely gutted, and you're just seeing the remnants of the waters and what we saw there. So it's a lot going on here, but I think we can put trust in what the officials are wanting to do and how they are wanting to execute their search efforts.
And you know, with the water rising, I think they said it was like 26 feet in about 45 minutes. We are dealing with historic levels of flooding here in this community. But the governor mentioned how they were looking to just find the little girl that may be holding on to a tree limb, just holding on just a little bit longer for first responders to get there. We know yesterday they had about 5 helicopters in the air. They were successful with those recoveries. They mentioned that 3 more will be here today. And then we just found out from that press conference, Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, she mentioned that they'll be sending more helicopters from the Coast Guard, which have thermal imaging, and that really will give them another leg up in this search, because then they can actually see people late at night. We know some of those searches continued here overnight, but at the same time, now you're armed with this chopper that can have thermal imaging. That gives you another tool in the tool belt to hopefully find someone that is still out there, like the governor said, holding on for the minute they can be found and then returned to their family.
And you talk about holding on for 1 more minute longer. You know, attending these press conferences, we learned that a lot of these rescues are from high-level places. So they are either in trees or they're in areas where the water isn't high enough. So I think that hope we're hoping that people continue to hold on to that hope. And, you know, if we're the ones asking questions as media members, how are the family members feeling right now? That's what I've been here. You're gonna go around the city, you're gonna see the remnants, you're gonna see the trees and all the debris. And there's no word for what you're going to see because it's that impacting. And if we have no words, imagine the family members who get that call, hey, your daughter's missing, or hey, unfortunately, they're no longer alive.
And you know, I want to share something on a personal level here. I have a friend who actually went to college with a family that lost their daughter. So this is a camp that's well known, not just here in Texas. Little girls, they come to this camp from all across the neighboring states. So it's not just Texas. So you have families that are going to be impacted in different states, you know. So I know personally this has definitely crossed state lines for some folks. And one of the things that we're talking about is the search. What areas are we searching? Because the river rose so high and that water is just going extremely fast downstream, they have to search the entire Guadalupe River because you don't know, someone that may have been swept away here could be 12 miles down the Guadalupe River. So it's one of those things where there's going to be a lot of efforts, and as the water recedes, that's going to give you new areas to search. That is a NIM kid essentially said it's a grid type search. So they're searching everything in parcels, trying to make sure they don't overlook anything. And again, as that water recedes, that's new territory they have to look for and hopefully find people.
It's complicated because the Guadalupe River, from what I understand and what I've been able to see, there's certain areas where the water has completely receded and you are able to, you know, walk around and see. But there's areas where that water is still rushing. You can still see the current. You can hear it, how, you know, fast it's moving. So complicated situation when we talk about geography.
And it's moving downstream. You know, folks in Georgetown and Travis County, we have some issues there as well because that water's got to go somewhere. It's going to continue to flow downstream. But again, the highlight, not the highlight, but the unfortunate news, I should say, 32 people now deceased, 18 adults. Out of the 18 adults, 5 of them are unidentified. Then we also have 14 children, 3 of them identified for a total, again, 32 lives lost. And
3 unidentified.
3 unidentified, correct. Yes. So then we're going to continue to kind of watch. We're expecting another press conference, and if it's anything like this one, you know, every day we get every time we get a press conference, those numbers increase. So hopefully it's not as bad as what we've been seeing.
And Anthony, we've been posting on social media, whether that's Instagram, Twitter, X, Facebook, live streaming. A lot of people are commenting, how can we help? Can we go out there and search? And one of the things that the officials were saying, hey, you know, stay home. I know you want to help and search, but that is only going to, you know, serve as a deterrent. They have enough resources with the state. We just heard it right now. 1,331 state support has been sent in ways of local, on top of local support. And they went down through the breakdown of, you know, who was here. We heard from Texas DPS, the state game warden, just several different law enforcement agencies all here on deck wanting to find and search for those missing persons.
Yeah, and you know, the best thing you can do right now is to just share information that you know to be truthful on fox26houston.com. We've been doing our very best to compile information on the reunification centers, the shelters that are out there, people that are going to be offering help if you would like to make those donations. So definitely head to the website. But also, if you are missing someone, there's a call center that has now been set up. There's a number and email address. So I want to share this with our viewers watching now. That number to call is 830-258-1111. Again, that's the number to the call center if you're missing anyone. The number 830-258-1111. And then the email address is floodrecovery at co.kerr.tx.us. Again, we're going to put that on the website to make sure you guys have that, but it's floodrecovery at co.kerr.tx.us.
And that is one of the messages that officials are saying. Please help us share this contact information, whether by phone or by email.
You know, we're going to send it back to you in the studio here for a second time. We can actually hear there's helicopters right over here. There's also sirens heading in that direction. The Texas game warden just pulled in here behind us. So this pretty much is Central Command. This is where the press conference took place inside of the building here. That is the Texas DPS State Troopers here. They're heading down towards the city now, pretty much towards the community. Down that way, we're not allowed access pretty much. So this is pretty much where everything is happening, and we're doing our very best to get you guys as best and as accurate information as possible. But the search efforts certainly continuing here at this hour.
Anthony Antoine and Jonathan Mejia in Kerrville this afternoon. Thank you so much. Work yet to do. We'll check in with you later in the day and the evening as well. We did mention that this flash flood was unpredicted. It's this confluence of a couple of different weather patterns. Let's go to Fox 26 meteorologist Ramisha Shade with kind of an explanation as to what happened. And then, Ramisha, this same sort of problem is now farther to the north, at least it was earlier in the day, and kind of to the northwest of Austin.
Right. Across central Texas, we're still dealing with some pretty major flooding issues. We've been tracking this big wave of flooding over the last day to day and a half, and it has just been historic in some of these locations. I want to take you to this graphic. This is showing the Guadalupe River right around Hunt, and check just how high this water level was. At its peak, when it crested close to 30 feet, 29.45 feet during the early morning hours of the 4th of July. That happened in a very short period of time, rapid rise of water on that river, and that was actually the second highest height on record. That was even higher than the 1987 flood. So this is the Guadalupe River at Hunt, and it actually rose 22 feet in only a few hours. More specifically, in about 3 hours. So the Guadalupe River at Comfort actually rose 26 feet in about 45 minutes. So this was an extreme event. We had extreme drought actually going on before this. So initially the ground was really not able to absorb a lot of that water very quickly. So there was more runoff, and that led to the flash flooding happening even faster. So now we've been tracking the rainfall from this system. This is over the last 48 hours or 2 days. And check out these totals. This is crazy what we're seeing with these rain totals. Anywhere from 10 to almost 18 inches of rain for parts of the hill country in central Texas, from Brady to Fredericksburg to Kerrville to Burnett, Round Rock, and now even into Austin, seeing some of that super heavy rain, those rain totals piling up. And we do actually still have ongoing flooding at this time. So here's the picture of what's going on at the moment, and we still have a flash flood emergency warning going on for Burnett County, and this is going to include the Burnett area. This is very close to Round Rock, just to the north and west of Austin. What is a flash flood emergency? Well, a flash flood warning means that life-threatening flash flooding is going on. But when you get the emergency wording, that means the National Weather Service is thinking that this is an unusual and a catastrophic situation potentially, where we could have widespread life-threatening flash flooding, and you really need to try to get to shelter, get to a safe place quickly, because it's a very dangerous situation. So that is going on currently in Burnett County, and that emergency flash flood warning will continue through at least 7 p.m. It was supposed to end at 4, but has already been extended through 7 p.m. Farther to the south, we've got Austin dealing with some flooding issues. And we also have some flash flood warnings and flood advisories down around San Marcos, New Braunfels, and the San Antonio area, just to the south of where we do have those flood warnings. So we got a lot going on in this area. We'll continue to monitor it. Heavy rain trying to push into western sections of the Houston metro area, but it's staying west of Houston now, over towards Brenham and College Station. We've been getting some rain there, but we do still have a flood watch in place for a big chunk of central Texas, including the Kerrville area, and also San Antonio, Austin, and Round Rock. This is until 10 p.m. tonight, so this was also extended. What can we expect here? Another 2 to 4 inches of rainfall could quickly lead to more flash flooding. So this is a problem that's not going to go away, at least for the next few hours, at least through tonight. That flood risk will remain on the higher side. Closer look at where we do have that flash flood emergency. This is going to be right around Burnett County, Marble Falls, Burnett, and Liberty Hill, and you see that heavy rain at least starting to push south of this area. It's tracking from the north to the south, so we've gotten rid of the heaviest of that rain, but the damage is already done. There's still a lot of flooding going on there, so certainly you need to avoid any floodwaters in that area. Also dealing with flash flood warnings down closer to the Austin area. In fact, Round Rock under that flash flood warning, Lakeway, Bee Cave, Lago Vista under a flash flood warning, and we've got that flash flood emergency that does include parts of Travis County. So a lot going on here. You can see just over the last 12 hours, anywhere from 2 to 6 inches of rain right over Burnett, Bertram, Marble Falls, and pushing down into Lago Vista. definitely some very heavy rain coming down in a short period of time. Also dealing with a flash flood emergency down around the Royal Forest area, just to the south and west of Royal Forest and north of New Braunfels. This emergency flash flood warning going out through 6:30 p.m. So there's still a lot going on with this flooding in central Texas, and it looks like it will continue at least through tonight. Models are indicating that the atmosphere will kind of try to start to dry out over the next day or two, but we still got a mid-level disturbance kind of spinning here, pumping in a lot of moisture, and we will continue to see these rain totals, unfortunately, piling up. 12-hour rainfall up towards New Braunfels and also Canyon Lake, Marion, Santa Clara. In these spots, anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of rain, and this is just over the last 12 hours. So this is the reason why we got all of the flood advisories, the flash flood warnings, emergency flash flood warnings, and it likely will continue. I want to show you our Fox weather model and what you can expect as we go through the rest of tonight for the central Texas area. And it's not really looking great. Models are still showing big blobs of heavy rain bubbling up near San Antonio, San Marcos, Round Rock, Burnett, Killeen. Maybe not pushing as far west as Kerrville, but we do have still a high shot for more flash flood potential here. By 8 o'clock, some of the same spots getting hit with those waves of heavy rain. And I think by 10, some of that could creep close to the Kerrville area before it kind of starts to wind down for the night. So we'll have to watch that closely, because at this point, any additional rain could cause some issues there. As far as that flash flood risk for the rest of today and tonight, it remains elevated in the same spot I've been telling you about in central Texas for parts of the hill country, including the San Antonio area, Kerrville, Fredericksburg, Austin, and Round Rock. Notice that the Houston area is not included in this. The worst of this will stay to the west of Houston and Galveston, so a little bit of good news there. Flood risk tomorrow will start to retreat back to the west and northwest of Kerrville, but Kerrville's still in that low marginal risk for flooding even on Sunday. And to the northwest of Kerrville, there's still a 2 out of 4 street flooding risk. But here is some better news. As we go into Monday, the street flooding risk moves out completely from central Texas, and we back it all the way up to Amarillo and the Albuquerque area. So things will gradually start to dry out, and hopefully that will help crews to get out and be able to recover a little bit quicker and get things done that they need to get done. But for now, unfortunately, the flash flooding situation still continues for this area. Closer look at what's going on in and around Houston. I told you some of that heavy rain was trying to creep a little bit closer to the Houston area, not quite making it at this point. But if you're over towards Eagle Lake, Sealy, Columbus, Belleville, and Brenham, you're getting in on some of this heavy rain action. At this point, not expecting any major flooding here. We'll have to see just how quickly this rain moves out, but just plan on some slowdowns if you are going to be out running errands or trying to make it to an event this evening. That heavy rain still coming down, but H-Town and also down towards Galveston looking good at this point. So I am expecting these downpours to likely continue for a few more hours over towards Belleville, Sealy, and Eagle Lake, and maybe making it into Houston briefly. But notice as we go through our future cast, that comes to an end tonight. So I'm not expecting the situation to push into the Houston area. So it's good news for us, but of course we will have to closely monitor what's going on for our friends in central Texas, because it has been a horrific, nightmarish event that has gone on over the last day to day and a half. At least in Houston, though, things are quiet, calm, and we will continue to monitor that threat for heavy rainfall getting closer to the Houston area. But for now, I think for the rest of the holiday weekend, it's just isolated rain tonight and Sunday with some better storm chances popping up as some of you head back to work on Monday. Tom?
Ramisha, thank you. We have been updating the devastating and deadly flash flooding in Kerr County, and the continuing search for survivors and those who have been victimized by this event. We'll continue to monitor this. We will have the latest that we can share with you on Fox 26 News at 5. We'll see you then.
Customer service reps are A1, top notch.
They are so nice. You get a human being to talk to.
It's month to month, very simple.
You're not locked in.
I got to keep my phone. I got to keep my number.
If you're thinking about switching providers, do it.
If I can do it, you can.
That's why I love Consumer Cellular. They've made it easy. We'd love for you to enjoy our reliable nationwide coverage and the best customer service in the business. Give us a call now and start saving up to half on what you're paying now. It only takes about 20 minutes.
Call 800-755-8061
to switch and save up to half with Consumer Cellular. Plus, new customers can save $25 when they switch today.
Do you need a memory boost? Are you tired of reaching for names and words during conversations? Trust me, you're not alone. That's why we developed Doctor's Preferred Mindful Advantage, the cutting-edge, science-backed brain health supplement that will help keep your mental edge sharp.
To get your complimentary sample of Mindful Advantage, just text ALACT to 215-215.
I'm not forgetting words. Mindful Advantage helps you think faster by targeting 5 areas of brain function: attention, learning and memory, language, motor function, and even mood, with 5 key brain-boosting ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies.
It makes me feel focused and sharp.
I feel more like I felt years ago.
To get your complimentary sample of Mindful Advantage, just text ALACT to 215-215. Text now and we'll send you a bottle of Doctor's Preferred Magnesium absolutely free. Mindful Advantage is not available in stores. So text ALACT to 215-215 now.
Back here on Fox Weather, we go to Texas, where the devastating flash flooding took place yesterday. At least 32 are dead. Dozens are still missing. And the Guadalupe River, it rose at an unfathomable pace yesterday, just overtaking the communities here right along its banks. The flooding, it's continued into early this morning. Fox Weather meteorologist Bain Froney is in Ingram, Texas now with the latest. Bain, what's the feeling been like out there today? I'm sure it is so heavy seeing all that devastation around you.
It's been an incredibly difficult, Jane. You know, a lot of people with heavy hearts today. We just got a new confirmation that now there are 32 people who have died from this situation, from this flooding disaster, and there are still dozens of people that are missing. And people are scared. They're devastated. This is their home, their vacation home. People have been coming here for years to celebrate the 4th of July on the river, and this was not what anyone was expecting for this holiday weekend. And where I'm standing right now on this bridge, just about 36 hours ago, was completely underwater. And now the river is slowly going down almost to right around where it normally is. But now that that's going down, we have a better look at all the damage now. And you can see behind me just huge, massive trees uprooted. You can see this giant root here, and there are debris stuck in the branches of these trees. And we've been hearing helicopters going around all day long as well in that search and recovery effort. I don't know if you can hear them, but they're actually right above me right now. We can see helicopters going around in order to help that search and recovery effort. You can see them up there currently. So keeping a very close eye on that. That is still the #1 thing that is going on here. It is all about recovery and trying to find those that are still missing throughout this community. And there are dozens of people that are still unaccounted for. So just hoping and praying that people are found safe and still alive and can be reunited with their loved ones. That is the most important thing. But I do want you to take another look behind me. I mean, you can see closer into the trees, there's a car stuck in there. There's just different types of debris from homes, from cars, just unimaginable damage that has been coming out of this flooding disaster. And like you said, Jane, this came on fast, this came on quick, and it happened overnight, which is the most dangerous part, the most vulnerable part for a lot of people. They were asleep, didn't see these warnings coming. It was dark. And so we spoke with some neighbors who were actually stuck across the river due to a broken bridge about how they were feeling after seeing the aftermath of this flash flood.
I had no idea about the floods, like how bad it was, until I woke up. We had just seen some like flood warning, flood watch before bed, but we didn't think it was going to be like devastating, you know.
And devastating it was for a lot of people waking up this morning. And Jane, I did mention that, you know, this morning and throughout the day, it's just been really heartbreaking. People are just very somber. It's been a very devastating day, but at the same time, people are coming together to help one another, whether that be searching for others or even helping make this bridge drivable again, as it was broken just a few hours ago due to all of this flooding and all of this damage. So even though there's a lot of devastation here, the community is really coming together and trying to help one another as much as they can.
It's a common theme that we see time and time again when disaster strikes, and it is truly the one silver lining that comes out of such heartbreaking stories like this. So, Bain, there was just a presser with the governor, Greg Abbott, and Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, and they were going over, just the resources that they were providing to Texans during this time. And, the governor extending the disaster declaration to multiple counties. Where you are in Ingram, and I know you've kind of been moving around, what is the devastation similar from, town to town, county to county? Because this is a big footprint that unfortunately a lot of people are dealing with right now.
Yes, Jane, everywhere that we have been, and we've been moving around the town, moving around Kerr County, and no matter where we are, there is just an incredible amount of damage and people just trying to pick up the pieces. So right now there are areas that have been set up with water stations, and like I said, neighbors are helping each other. This whole community on this side of the river was stuck on this side, so people were bringing over groceries, gas, anything that anyone needed. So there are places that people can go here to get help, to get support, but it's been devastating all around, no matter where we've been throughout the county.
And Bain, I know you were talking to, and we've been following Camp Mystic and the heartbreaking story of the girls who are missing. The camp saying that, at the height of all of this, no Wi-Fi, no power. What's that situation like right now? Has there been some restoration into those areas?
Well, as of right now, some areas are getting power back. Wi-Fi is a little bit hard to come by. Service is a little bit spotty for a lot of areas. So it's coming back slowly, which has been helpful. But I can tell you on this side of the river, still no power for a lot of folks. So it just depends on where you're at. But it's coming back slowly, which has been helpful and good for a lot of people, but still a lot of things that have been devastating here and a lot of cleanup to do as well.
Absolutely. Well, Bain, just great reporting out there. We're going to continue to check in with you today as those updates continue to pour in. Appreciate the report there from Ingram, Texas. It's just been a heartbreaking holiday. Unfortunately, you take a look at some of the video coming out of Kerrville, Texas at the height of this flooding disaster. As we mentioned, the Guadalupe River rising nearly 30 feet in a matter of hours. It was historic, right? With 12 to 15 inches of rain reported near San Angelo, triggering the floods. Unfortunately, the Guadalupe River reaching its second highest height on record. And you just see here just the power of water. I think for a lot of folks, flash flooding in general is not something that you anticipate, right? It comes on very fast. And river flooding like this, we have seen this time and time again. Remember, we had the Ohio River floods earlier in the year. Then, of course, we had Hurricane Helene. And so this is just a heartbreaking reality right now in Texas that so many people are having to deal with. Take a listen.
Trying to explain to a world that's watching this and asking questions, 26 to 30 foot rise in the water in a matter of an hour, 4 to 6 a.m. on a holiday.
Exactly right. And now it's just a matter of going through the debris. A lot of the floodwaters, especially along the Guadalupe River, have returned into the banks. And so now it's just the push of the trees and the roads that have been torn apart and people who have been trapped because they have been cut off by these floodwaters. And so just a historic, deadly event. As we know, at least 32 people have died. That's an updated number as those search and rescue efforts do continue for the missing. We do have more rain in the forecast today, and I hate to say that, but we are still anticipating the possibility that we could see more flooding, a quick water rise. We have seen just a ground that has taken on far too much water. The creeks and the streams all leading into the riverbeds that have just been so swollen. We are still expecting an additional maybe 1 to 2 inches of rain. Now, you talk about some of the devastation here. Earlier, we spoke with a woman who lost her home in this flooding.
Well, for the people in my neighborhood, we've literally lost everything.
will need food and shelter and water and electricity and all the basic things. The outpouring of love to this community has been incredible already. I have received so many people contacting me to see what they can do to help. So
it is all about helping others, especially in a time of need like this. So here's a look at the last hour. We have alerts that are still on the board right now, and that is going to continue as we head through this late afternoon, bleeding into those evening hours. Here's, look at what's still to come. We've already seen 15 to 20 inches of rain in the last 48 hours. We have alerts that are still on the board, not just flash flood warnings. We do still have a lingering flash flood emergency for a community that is still dealing with the water rise. We have flood watches that have been extended to multiple counties because we do still experience, rain outside of this up to San Angelo, Kerrville. This has been kind of like that ground zero where we've seen the worst of the devastation, but all the way out towards Austin and San Antonio, we bring the bigger cities into the mix here. Flooding continues, the possibility of that through this evening. And then into tomorrow, some of the same areas, we do shift it a little further back out to the west. I'll show you what that looks like on the exclusive Fox weather model in the next few hours. So through about now and sundown, we're going to see this scattered coverage. Now, I have to be honest, it is hard to exactly pinpoint where we could see that downpour and that trigger that could lead to some flash flooding. The coverage of this is going to be spotty, but through about 9 o'clock, here's just an idea of what we could be dealing with. You can, too, follow along. Have you your Fox Weather app downloaded in the radar tab? You can see that future radar out by a couple of hours. But once the sun sets, we lose some of that instability. So things should be on the drier side as we get into the overnight. But getting into tomorrow morning, note we already have a couple showers on the board west of the I-35 up towards Killeen and Dallas, Abilene. That's the coverage that is going to perhaps start to pick up in intensity and drive back down over these areas. San Angelo, Kerrville, as we head through tomorrow afternoon. Scattered coverage once again, but we could squeeze out and pick up additional heavy rain that could quickly amount to, if not 1 to 2, 2 to 3 inches or more. Now, again, similar to what we'll see tonight, once the sun sets, we see things dry out into the overnight hours. But here's just an idea of the rain still to come through the end of this holiday weekend. An additional 2 to 3, the possibility of perhaps 3 to 5 plus inches of rain. And again, it's just off to the west of Kerrville, but this is just an estimate. We could maybe see this shift a bit. So you just need to be on alert, be ready to get to high ground, and of course, keep it tuned in here to Fox Weather. We're going to keep you up to date. Tracking Chantal, Tropical Storm Chantal. Look at Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. We've got a tropical storm, folks. It's sitting right off the coast, and it is going to move inland, making landfall sometime overnight tonight, perhaps bleeding into early tomorrow morning. That's the favorability here. We just got the new advisory at the top of the hour, 5 o'clock, 45-mile-per-hour winds. Not a big update here from the National Hurricane Center. Now, we do have the hurricane hunters. They are going to be flying out into the storm. They're going to do a couple more passes as we head throughout this evening. They were out there earlier today, and we got some really important data, right? To get the name, to see the upgrade, to see how this system is looking. It's pretty ragged. It's lopsided. All of the thunderstorm development, all of that deep rainfall is just off to the right side of the center. But the hurricane hunters, as they take off into tomorrow morning, we are going to see that mission, of course, give us more data and information. Tropical storm warnings, they're up on the board. Georgetown, Myrtle Beach. This is the zone where we could potentially see that landfall as we go through about the next 12 hours or so up to Carolina Beach, Surf City. And now because this storm is so lopsided, everything is going to be shunted up into North Carolina. So all that rain is going to work its way up through here. We'll see the heavier downpour potential. And also, too, we could see some stronger wind gusts. Now, the thing is here, this storm is not overly strong. It is a tropical storm, 45-mile-per-hour winds. Brief window here where we could see maybe an uptick ever so slightly with those stronger wind gusts. but we'll probably see on the order of about 20 to 30, maybe up to 40-mile-per-hour gusts at times, especially around that landfall hour and then into the hours after, into the immediate start of the day on Sunday. But look at the coverage. I mean, it's very scattered. We have that dry air that we've been battling, the hostile winds. You take a look at the winds right now, gusting to 22 in Wilmington, 26 now in Charleston. So we're starting to see that uptick a bit here this evening. Big waves. We've seen the ocean churned up here. We have high risk for rip currents. In fact, some beaches are closed for swimming, as they should be. When you have a system like this out there, you have a really strong current too. So just be heads up there. We have that deep thunderstorm development, and we will see that rain pick up in coverage, especially up into North Carolina as we get into tomorrow. Let's check in on what's going on in the Eastern Pacific. This was off to a really fast start to the season. We have two areas to watch. Invest 96E, which perhaps has the greatest opportunity to take in our next name off the list, and then an area to watch back behind it. It doesn't have a ton of thunderstorm development along with it, but models are indicating that we'll probably see that start to blossom as we get towards the later half of this week upcoming. So here's the latest. Invest 96E, 30-mile-per-hour winds, still very disorganized. We don't have that clear center of circulation. Here's a look at the enhanced satellite in the last few hours. Certainly some broad circulation out there, but nothing that's really kind of confined or congealed around that center. Warm waters, that's certainly going to help with that thunderstorm growth, and we are expecting for this system to remain in that pocket of warmth, at least for the time being. We do still have some cooler waters out ahead of it that have cooled down from storms past. And also, too, we have that shelf, that drop off, the farther north off to the west we get, that is going to eventually start to erode away the storm. Take a look at this. So Invest 96E, we call it an invest because we're quite simply investigating this system. And we get to run special weather models. And so this is an idea of the spaghetti model, those ensembles that are going to track the center of this storm. You've got some models that are going to want to take it down to the south, but the overall consensus is truly due off to the west. And so we will see the system stay offshore. There's that spin picking up in intensity. I think probably about early this week, we'll see something come together, tropical depression, perhaps a tropical storm. The next on the list would be Gil. Look how many we've already checked off here. Alvin, Barbara, Cosme, Delilah, and then, of course, Eric and Flossie, which were our major hurricanes of the season. But we'll continue to follow. We are certainly ahead of schedule here. Well, South Carolina bracing for Tropical Storm Chantal. We have a tropical threat inching closer and closer to landfall. Alerts are up and the ocean is churned. We'll check in with Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel for the latest on the conditions when Fox Weather gets right back.
bullseyepro.com.
Hello, and thank you for watching Fox Weather. It is the bottom of the hour. We have special extended coverage this Saturday, bringing you the latest with Tropical Storm Chantal and, of course, just the historic flooding, the heartbreaking story out of Texas this holiday weekend. I'm meteorologist Jane Menard. Let's get right to it. Tropical Storm Chantal inching toward the Carolina coast. It is the first Atlantic storm of the season that will have a direct impact on the United States. That landfall, well, expected perhaps in about the next 12 hours. Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel is live in North Myrtle Beach, where conditions starting to take a turn, although looks like I see your shadow. Maybe we've got some breaks of sunshine out there.
Yeah, so we haven't seen much in the way of weather here for a couple of hours. We got here, it was raining briefly, quick squall, and that was it. So we've got some sun looking off to the west and the south, and then we have plenty of surf looking off to the east and north and south. I mean, anywhere you look in the Atlantic, it's like a big wash tub right now, all churned up by these strong winds. They're sustained at about 17 to 18 miles an hour, what I measured here at the beach. We got some gusts 20, 25. Offshore, we've seen gusts at some of the buoys up to tropical storm force and wave heights up to 9 feet. So it is not a great day to be out on the water on a vessel. Not many folks in the water right now. In fact, the lifeguards come off the stands here momentarily. And as we always urge you, don't swim on the beach, in the surf, if there's not a lifeguard around. Unguarded beaches are dangerous, especially in the evening, especially with weather like this, with the rip currents, the longshore drift, and the dangerous surf. So overall, not a good day. In fact, you can see we got the red flag whipping with that east-northeast wind. We still have a few showers out there on the radar, but the bulk of the rain is going to come later on tonight. You can see on the radar everything rotating around the center of Tropical Storm Chantal. Winds of 45 miles an hour, moving now north, north-northwest about 7 miles an hour. So forward speed is picked up, and we expect landfall sometime in the early hours of Sunday morning. Most of the rain will be along and to the right of the center at landfall, so that means from here north up towards Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach. In fact, several counties in North Carolina and South Carolina, including here in Horry County, Georgetown County, Brunswick County, where Wilmington and Wrightsville Beach are under flood watches until early Sunday evening. But most of the rain will fall overnight with the center coming on shore. And then if you look at the models, at least the high-res radar forecast model, it's taking that blob of rain north and northwest over Fayetteville, the Sandhills, the coastal plain, over Interstate 95, into the Raleigh-Durham area by about 6 or 7 tomorrow night. That's just one model, but just a heads up, if you're traveling back from the vacation from the 4th of July, and you are going to be on Interstate 95 in North Carolina tomorrow, say late morning through early evening, whether you're on I-40, I-95, you may run into some of that rain from Chantal and some gusty winds. So, Jane, a rough surf, not a bad evening right now. We'll get most of the weather overnight, and then by mid-morning tomorrow morning, we may see the sun back out here. Still rough surf, but the main impact again is rainfall inland and some localized flooding. We could get some wind gusts 50, maybe 55 miles an hour. That's going to be a minimal as far as structural damage and power outages go, as far as those kind of impacts.
And you know, Mike, we've seen this movie before. This is exactly what we expect with a system like this, off a stalled front in those warm waters of the Atlantic, right off the coast of the Carolinas. It's just kind of a breeding ground for those homegrown storms. I think what will be interesting, not expecting a big push of energy, but the hurricane hunters, they are scheduled to go fly out and investigate the storm later this evening. Is there anything about that flight that interests you? Maybe something that they could pinpoint or highlight as we see the system approach landfall?
Not really. I think it's going to behave. I don't think there's any chance. I don't think there's any chance of this thing surprising us and becoming a hurricane or a stronger tropical storm. Now, they do forecast it before making landfall to go from a 45-mile-an-hour tropical storm to a 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm, mile-per-hour tropical storm. So that's in the forecast, and the impacts won't be much different. A few raindrops now blowing in and raining with the sun out. The lifeguards have now come off their stands. as we await Chantal's landfall sometime tomorrow morning. And we'll be back after the special coverage this evening. We'll be back on the air at 6 a.m. Eastern on Fox Weather, also on Fox News, to show you what's going on or what's not going on. It'll still be windy. There'll still be some showers, but I think the bulk of the rain by 6, 7 in the morning is going to be inland from where we are based on the current forecast. But with leftover bands, kind of the tails wrapping around the center as it goes into South Carolina, then into North Carolina during the morning hours. In fact, they have it knocked down to a depression by midday tomorrow. So that's what we expect.
Right.
No energy source and friction. And we don't have much of a storm to start with. And these weak storms tend to be east side or right side loaded, and that's what this one is too. Not a concentric area of rain. Most of the rain is off to the east.
Exactly, which for North Carolina just means a wetter forecast for you as we close out this holiday weekend. So, Mike, I agree with you. I'm not expecting any major surprises here with Chantal, but we certainly will be watching the first landfall of the Atlantic hurricane season here on the U.S. coast. All right, Mike, we'll check back in with you again soon on the beaches there in North Myrtle Beach. So here's the latest. Charlotte, I hope I'm saying that right, North Carolina, 81 degrees. We do some breezier winds. Look at that. Maybe a little Virga off in the distance, if you see that kind of rain shaft there. I don't know how much of that is reaching the ground now. This is tropical moisture, so probably a lighter rain at times, maybe a little heavier back out to the left. But nonetheless,